Good morning, beautiful souls. It's Monday, March 31st, and you're tuning into Blue Mountain Morning, where we turn the chaos of the world into something actually digestible before your first cup of coffee.
And we're so glad you're here with us today. I'm Mark, joined as always by my slightly caffeinated friend, Alex.
Slightly caffeinated? Mark, I've had 3 espressos already, and it's not even...
It's 6:30 in the morning, Alex.
Exactly, only 3. But hey, before we dive in, we have to give a massive shout out to Ben, who's apparently been recommending us to all his coworkers.
Absolutely. Ben, thank you for spreading the word. That kind of support means everything to us.
You're basically our unofficial marketing department now, Ben. No pressure. Now let's dive into today's headlines, and honestly, the first one has me pretty worried. The federal government has canceled dozens of grants aimed at studying and preventing HIV infections and expanding access to care.
It's a significant development that scientists are saying could decimate progress toward eliminating the HIV epidemic in the United States.
I mean, wait, decimate? Like we're going backwards after all the progress we've made over the decades?
Unfortunately, yes. These grants fund critical research that helps us understand how to prevent new infections, and they support programs that expand access to treatment and care for those already living with HIV.
God, that's just... I can't even... what's the justification here? Is this a budget thing or what?
The reporting suggests it's part of broader funding cuts. The concern among medical experts is that without this research and these support programs, we could see infection rates start to climb again, particularly in underserved communities,
which are already disproportionately affected. I read somewhere that Black and Latino communities have higher rates of new infections, right?
That's correct. And these grants often specifically targeted those communities with prevention and treatment programs designed to address those disparities.
So we're basically pulling the rug out from under decades of progress. That's just great. Just great. And speaking of things that are heating up, many of the country's most contested issues are playing out tomorrow in, of all places, Wisconsin. Their Supreme Court election is turning into this massive political showdown.
It really is. This race has implications that extend far beyond Wisconsin's borders. The state Supreme Court could end up determining the future of abortion rights, voting rights, and even the powers of public employee unions in the state.
And oh my God, it could actually reshape Congress. Am I understanding this right? This state court could literally decide whether Republicans keep their majority in the U.S. House?
That's correct. The court might have to rule on whether Wisconsin redraws its congressional districts, which could potentially narrow or even eliminate the Republican majority in the House of Representatives.
No wonder money is absolutely flooding in from everywhere. And speaking of money, Elon Musk, wearing a cheesehead hat. I cannot make this up, people.
It was quite a sight. Musk attended a rally there last night wearing that iconic Wisconsin foam cheese hat while announcing his support for the conservative candidate. He's already donated millions to back her campaign.
And then he just casually handed out $1 million to 2 random people. Is that even legal?
Well, that's exactly what caused all the controversy. There was a legal back and forth about whether giving away that money amounted to bribing voters. The courts eventually allowed it to proceed with some restrictions.
The whole thing is just so... Wisconsin wasn't exactly on my bingo card for most dramatic political battleground of the week, but here we are.
It really shows how state Supreme Court races, which typically receive little national attention, can have enormous consequences for both state and national politics.
And speaking of unexpected political developments, did you see what Trump said on NBC this weekend? He's talking about serving a 3rd term as president. I'm sorry, but last I checked, that's not actually allowed by something called the Constitution.
It was certainly a notable moment in his interview with Kristen Welker. Trump specifically stated there are methods to circumvent the constitutional limit that prevents presidents from serving more than 2 terms.
And he made it very clear he wasn't joking. He literally said, what was it? There are methods which you could do it as you know. As I know? I don't know because it's not constitutional.
You're right about the Constitution. The 22nd Amendment, ratified in 1951, explicitly limits presidents to 2 terms. It was passed after Franklin Roosevelt won 4 consecutive elections. Before that amendment, presidents had traditionally followed George Washington's precedent of voluntarily stepping down after 2 terms.
But Trump seems to think there's some kind of constitutional loophole? Like he can just find a workaround?
Changing this would require either a constitutional amendment, which needs approval from 2/3 of both houses of Congress and 3/4 of state legislatures, or a constitutional convention called by 2/3 of state legislatures.
So basically, extremely unlikely unless, Oh God, is he suggesting something more, extra-constitutional?
That's the concerning part. The ambiguity of his statement leaves room for interpretation, which has many constitutional scholars worried about the implications for democratic norms and the peaceful transfer of power.
Now let's turn to something that also affects literally every American: our crumbling infrastructure. The Biden administration pumped billions into rebuilding America's roads, bridges, and internet connections. The Trump administration is continuing some projects while redirecting others. But here's what I'm wondering. Who's actually benefiting from all this money? Because it sure doesn't feel like my hometown is seeing any of it.
It's a fair question, Alex. The American Society of Civil Engineers has given U.S. infrastructure a C- grade overall, so there's clearly work to be done everywhere. But when we look at where the money is flowing, there are some troubling patterns emerging.
Like what? Don't tell me it's all going to fancy coastal cities while rural America gets the leftovers.
Well, the data suggests there is a significant urban-rural divide. Urban areas tend to receive more funding per capita than rural communities, partially because projects there can serve more people at once. According to recent analysis, metropolitan areas have received approximately 72% of federal infrastructure grants while containing about 86% of the population.
Wait, so rural areas are actually getting more per person? That doesn't sound right.
It's complicated. While the raw numbers might suggest that, rural projects often cost more per capita due to geographical challenges and lower population density. Plus, many rural communities lack the resources to even apply for these competitive grants.
Oh, like they don't have grant writers and fancy consultants to help them navigate the bureaucratic nightmare of federal funding applications?
Exactly. Many small towns don't have specialized staff to prepare complex grant applications or provide the matching funds often required. This creates what experts call an infrastructure application gap.
Honestly, that sounds like a system designed to fail the communities that need help the most. What about tribal lands and historically underserved neighborhoods? I read that some reservations still don't have reliable running water.
You're highlighting a serious equity issue. In many Native American reservations, approximately 30% of households lack access to clean water or sanitation facilities. And in historically redlined urban neighborhoods, infrastructure has been neglected for decades.
So what are we supposed to do about this? Just accept that some Americans get nice roads and bridges and others get, thoughts and prayers?
There are some promising approaches being tested. For instance, the Justice 40 initiative aimed to direct 40% of certain federal investments to disadvantaged communities, and some states are creating technical assistance programs to help smaller communities with grant applications.
Okay, but real talk. Is any of this actually working? Are we seeing money reach these communities?
We're seeing mixed results. Some rural broadband initiatives have successfully connected remote areas, and there are targeted programs for replacing lead pipes in disadvantaged communities. But systemic barriers remain.
And I'm guessing corporate interests are somehow involved in all this too, right? Like, who's getting these construction contracts?
That's another layer of complexity. Large construction firms with established relationships with government agencies often win the biggest contracts. Some infrastructure bills have included provisions to prioritize small and minority-owned businesses, but implementation has been inconsistent.
This whole thing just makes me so frustrated. Infrastructure isn't supposed to be political. Everyone needs safe bridges and clean water.
I think that's the key point, Alex. Infrastructure equity isn't just about fairness. It's about ensuring that all Americans have access to the basic services they need to participate in society and the economy. When we shortchange certain communities, we all lose potential contributions to our shared prosperity.
So, what you're saying is we need to completely rethink how we distribute infrastructure funding if we want it to actually help all Americans?
That's exactly right. We need transparent, need-based allocation systems rather than competitive grants that favor well-resourced communities. And we need to involve local residents in planning processes to ensure projects address their actual needs. And now for our morning whisper, that moment where we take a collective breath before heading into our day.
Oh, thank goodness. I need this after all that infrastructure talk. My brain feels like it's been on a bumpy rural road with no funding.
You know, this morning as I was walking to the studio, I noticed how the trees are beginning to unfurl their leaves, each one at its own pace, in its own time.
I was too busy dodging potholes to notice anything, but go on.
Nature never rushes, yet everything gets done. When we feel overwhelmed by the news cycle or the problems that seem too big to solve, we can take a cue from those trees.
Wait, you want us to photosynthesize our problems away?
Not exactly. Here's a practical tip for today. When you feel that tension rising from all the information we've discussed, pause and take 3 slow breaths while imagining yourself as deeply rooted as a tree, steady despite whatever winds are blowing.
Huh, I actually kind of like that. Not rushing, but still growing and moving forward.
Exactly. Your thoughts will continue to flow, but you remain centered, just like those trees that bend with the breeze without breaking.
And that wraps up today's Blue Mountain Morning. Thanks for joining us as we sort through the chaos together.
We hope this morning's episode gave you some calm and clarity to start your day.
Oh my God, if you enjoyed the show, please tell someone about it. Like literally anyone in your life. Your mom, your boss, your barista,
Your neighbor, your dentist.
that random person waiting for the bus with you. Seriously, word of mouth is how we grow.
And if someone like Ben, who we mentioned earlier, has already recommended us to their coworkers, we'd love to give you a shout out.
Just shoot us an email at bluemountainmorningpodcast@gmail.com and we'll mention you on air.
We'll be back tomorrow with more news, more insights, and hopefully a little less infrastructure talk for Alex's sake.
Thank God my brain still hurts. See you tomorrow, beautiful people.